What is happening, everybody? So, I was able to get my hands on a set of Atturo AZ850s for my Challenger. And the way I came about them is my buddy SRT Jimmy and I split a set of hyper black wheels that happened to have a brand new set of Atturo AZ850s in the stock 275/40/20 for our SRT Challengers. And when I say brand new, I don't mean low mileage. I mean brand new. The tires had, I don't know, less than 2 weeks on them when we got these tires. So, yeah, we'll see what all the hype was about. Because so far as I could tell, a lot of Challenger guys have fallen in love with these Atturo tires. I've heard stories that they hook really well, that they're very inexpensive, and for all accounts are basically, well, not necessarily the savior to any traction problems that we have with these cars, but because of the price, well, it makes having a little bit of fun with these cars a little bit easier on the pocketbook. So, I wanted to give my driving impressions of the Atturo AZ850 in the stock 275/40/20 size. So, first of all, just in terms of aesthetics, it's a decent looking tire. It's basically on par as far as attractiveness as the Pirelli P0, either the all-season or the summer tire. Now, I initially bring up aesthetics because, well, let's face it, some tires have just got some ridiculous writing going on the side of them or just are plain and flat. It's a matter of taste. Some guys like the XS with the lettering and everything else. Others like it to be more plain. To me, it's basically on par with the Pirellis. It's got quite a bit of self-marketing, if you want to call it that, on the tire. But the reality is it's a pretty good-looking tire. And I was initially a little bit skeptical about whether or not these tires would perform well. Keep in mind that these tires cost just over $100 a piece. Basically, you can find these things for less than $250 shipped to your door. If you compare that to the price of a Pirelli tire, it's about half off. In other words, it's like buy one, get one free tires when you compare them to the Pirellis. So, yeah, little wonder why guys would gravitate towards them. But I've got to tell you, the tire left me fairly impressed. I've got a link in the description to a video of me doing some testing with these tires in Mexico in a closed course business park. And I've got to tell you, it was pretty impressive the way that these tires would actually hold, especially in lateral acceleration. I was able to predictably kick the rear end of the car out, set it into a fairly low speed four-wheel drift, and just modulate the rear end with the throttle. It was actually really fun, and it did it in a way that was actually a bit more aggressive in terms of grip than what I had expected from the tire initially. I was able to flat foot the throttle in some cases at about what you would consider to be the apex of a turn if you're at like a large autocross course or maybe an open track venue. And it was surprising just how well they hooked. So I'm going to post that video. I think there's a misspeak in there at one point when I'm playing around with the car trying to talk about the pricing. But a set of these tires is about $225 to $250 shipped to your door, as opposed to, and that's for two, by the way, as opposed to a single tire, the Pirelli stock tires costing about $230 to $250 as well for just one. Now, in terms of straight line acceleration, the initial bite is pretty good, but once you're past that threshold, these tires just light up. I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but even launching my car in second gear, and keep in mind my car is an SRT 392, even launching my car in second gear, it would twilight those tires. I mean, it was fun smoking them through third gear, but just know what you're getting into. I mean, this is a street tire. It's not a drag radial. I wouldn't call it an aggressive summer tire either, like the Pirelli summer tires. So it's not going to give that level of grip. But what it will do is it'll get you down the road just fine. and at speeds that are excessively high when you look at them from a speed limit point of view. Look, at normal highway cruising speeds, these things are just fine. They're perfectly stable at any speeds that would be considered sane on any highway. So let's just leave it at that. But I will say this. The only slight thing that I noticed about those tires was they felt like the sidewalls were a little bit softer than the Pirellis. So when I would set the car up into a turn, you could feel a little bit of a sway. But again, you would have to really be looking for it to notice. You'd notice it a little bit on the freeway as well, but God, they're so close. And in fact, I would say that they're a little bit more stable than a set of drag radials, like a true set of drag radials. Like the Nitto Tri-5R is more of a street tire and the Mickey Thompson is more of a drag tire. They felt just like the Nitto Tri-5Rs on the back of the car in terms of how they felt as far as stability. And again, that's saying a lot. I mean, we're talking about a street tire that is inexpensive, very easily attainable for anybody with one of these cars. And it does have that intangible factor to it. It's got just the fun factor of knowing you can smoke the things right down to the rims and throw another set on the car, and again, they just won't break the bank. So overall, how would I rate these tires? How would you grade them? Well, you almost have to grade them on two separate scales. If you're doing the whole, classroom A to F, just in terms of a tire, I would give it a C. I think the Pirelli summer tire is going to be an all-around better tire, but you've got to, again, look at it from a price point as well. Yeah, from a price point standpoint and performance per dollar, these things are an A+. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them if you're doing some, corner carving, canyon type stuff, or if you're doing any type of, road course events or things like that. Although they do hook really well, I just don't know that, if you're trying to be ultra competitive with your street car on a street tire, you might not cut the best time. But the other side of that argument is you can take these tires to an autocross course, mangle them, and by the time you've torn these things up, a new full set of these tires will cost you about as much as just throwing a couple of tires on the car if you're going with the normal stock setup. So yeah, it's tough to say. On one hand, you go, yeah, it's a middle of the road tire that hooks better than it should for the price point, but it's that price point and the fact that they do so well, or at least exceed expectations so much. Yeah, I gotta say that when it comes time to put tires back on this car, I might be going with a full set of these. As it sits now, though, I'm just going to use this set of wheels and tires as an extra set of wheels and tires to use if I go on road trips or things like that with the car. But I think I'm going to throw the drag radials back on. It's a little bit more fun being able to use the full throw of the throttle. But at any rate, I will post a link to that video in the description below. Forgive me if I misspoke here or there, but yeah, I was just having fun with the car. So hope you enjoy that, and get out there and take a look, do some searches on those Atturo AZ850s and see for yourself, see what some of the guys are saying. I, for one, am on board with the hype. I do love those tires now that I've had a chance to play with them, and although they're not my first choice in terms of performance, they will be my only choice in terms of price point. And that's a wrap on this one. Y'all have a great one. Adios.